bringing a topic tonight for you. It's mastering a positive mindset. It's not about positive toxicity. It's not going to be like pretending everything is great all the time. But how can we make adaptations in our thinking sometimes to have a more positive mindset? So this is a tool that is going to help you greatly. So we'll move on to our next slide. I wanted to say thank you for tonight's sponsor, Viatris. They have been sponsoring the MS Mental Wellness Chat for a good while now, and we are so thankful for them. Okay, so we need to talk about first, why does mindset matter? And mindset is incredibly important because it really shapes our ability to deal with things, our emotional well-being, and our ability to cope with challenges. And so, and research shows that a mindset improves your resilience, it reduces stress, and it enhances your quality of life. How you are looking at things dictates how you feel about things. And so we want to give you tools to help you with your mindset. It doesn't mean that it takes away the difficult things, the hard things, but it helps you through them. So we're going to move on to our next slide, and we're going to talk a little bit about negative thinking patterns. So negative thinking patterns do us no good, and oftentimes they fall in the area. We have Dave from Texas, and he's new. He's trying to figure this out. Well, you figured out how to participate, so I just wanted you to know. Thank you, David, for being here. So a lot of our negative thinking patterns are really based on cognitive distortions. You may be catastrophizing something, or having like all or nothing thinking, or having self-blame. And really, in order to make changes in your thinking and these patterns, one of the first steps is really to start shifting towards more positive thinking. And a lot of times, if you struggle with negative thinking, a therapist can help you to kind of learn how to reset that, how to reframe things, and how to identify cognitive distortions. Because the cognitive distortions really speak to us in really ugly, unkind ways, and they're not true, but often it feels like they are. So we'll move on to our next slide. So today we're going to talk a little bit about rewiring our brain. How do we rewire our brain to be more positive? And I'm sure that many of you, and you can say yes if you have, you've heard of the concept neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the rewiring for our brain. Our brains are trained to think more positively, so we can actually change some of our thinking patterns sometimes. Okay, we have a lot of yeses. This makes me happy. And if you're a no, it's okay. I'm just teaching you. So with practice, just like any type of exercise, positive thinking can become second nature. I know I have a couple of friends who I talk to that I hope that I influence sometimes, because I stop and I try to reframe what we're saying and try to rewire it into some positive aspects, because that changes the experience and how we look at it. So we'll move on to our next slide. So there's a couple of benefits to positive thinking for health and well-being. You can tell me in the chat if you want to what some of these are for you. That if you're positive thinking, how is it good for you? And I'll share. It reduces stress and anxiety. It improves the cardiovascular health. I was running almost late to my my neurology checkup today, my 6-month checkup. And I was thinking about like feeling a little bit stressed about being almost late. I'm usually always early, not just on time, kind of late. And I was thinking about when they did my blood pressure, it was a little bit higher than normal. And I think it was because of that. Like, whereas if I came in early and I felt like I would feel more positive about coming in and feel more relaxed and be able to sit down, and my blood pressure would have been fine. But also, positive thinking strengthens your immune system. Whereas stress and difficult thoughts really can cause more inflammatory responses and stress. Kenneth says one of his favorite songs is Accentuate the Positive. I'll have to look that up later. And it enhances your overall quality of life. And that's what we want to do. In this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about MS, but this is a lot of general stuff that impacts MS, because how we feel, how we handle stress, how we manage our day-to-day impacts our disease. Joe just said, take a drink. I will take a drink. I'm gonna real quick. My voice, I am so sorry, guys. Okay. And that was probably a good reminder. I'll probably take multiple drinks during this. Okay. So how do we harness thinking, positive thinking? How do we do this for coping? So we'll move on to our next slide. So how does positive thinking help us with coping? Have you ever, Shelley says, I find the concept of grace to be ultra useful in accepting the disease. Absolutely. The concept of grace is something that if we could give ourselves often, would really help people, help ourselves and help other people. And if we could give ourselves and other people grace too, would be equally as fair. But the concept of grace, I think, is beautiful, Shelley. I use it a lot in my work environment. I'm sort of the self-care leader out of my work team, and I talk a lot about grace and giving yourself grace. Monique says, although you might not be able to change something, you can change how you react to it. Absolutely so. So when you have a positive mindset, I want you to think about a time where you had a problem. And think about a time where you had a negative mindset about the problem, and a time that you had a positive mindset about a problem. Your problem-solving capacities are so much better when you're coming from a place of a more positive mindset. And this helps your emotional regulation because you'll feel less stressed. You'll feel a little bit more in control or aware of what's going on and not feel like it's taking as much control over you. And this helps to reframe challenges as opportunities for growth, learning something. And I know we don't all need lessons all the time, but sometimes we can find that something happens that's not amazing or it's hard, and we can learn from it. We'll move on to our next slide. So how do we harness the power of positive thinking for coping? Through reframing negative thoughts. Cognitive reframing is the practice of shifting a negative thought into a more constructive one. Doesn't mean that it makes it rainbows and perfection, but it helps you to restructure it into a more constructive one. And thank you, David, very much. And so, and Kanita says, I often remind people that I'm allergic to can't. I think that's a great thing. Reframing negative things. So instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I'll take it one step at a time. Let's move on to our next slide because I think it's a question. I have a question coming up, I know. Okay, let's reframe a negative thought together. Can somebody, Linda says she's looked for the silver lining, and Kevin says he's a little out of sorts lately, stressing out and feels like he's getting jerked around the universe as he prepares for Medicare enrollment in 2 days. Kenneth, I highly recommend for you to contact. I highly recommend for you to contact the National MS Society because they have really good resources for you. So let's reframe a negative thought together. Okay, are you guys ready? I want somebody to give me a negative thought. First one that is typed up on here, we'll use it. I could come up with an example, but I really want you guys to. And And Kenneth says, when you get out of the habit of being positive and something negative comes at you, you don't automatically respond poorly. You your initial reaction becomes a positive one. Exactly. You start because you exercise almost like you're exercising your muscles. What happens is that your automatic reflex is to think a little bit different, think a little bit more positively. Okay, so John, thank you so much for your negative thought. So we and Joe had one too. John says, "No one is returning my calls. No one loves me." Let's reframe that negative thought together. So say that no one returns my call. No one loves me. What is a reframe of that? Kevin said that he's contacted the National MS Society, he's gotten information, and then Crystal's trying to remain positive with pension disability and Social Security disability. So, Kenneth, you are not alone, is what I wanted to say. Okay, so let's try. So, Liz says maybe people are busy. Yeah, that's a good reframe. Shelley says people have jobs, lives, tomorrow is another day. I'll add one. Maybe maybe the person has a lot going on, something that I don't know about, and it's hard for them to call. So learning how to reframe situations, if you another way to think about this is we will more than likely reframe for a friend or someone that we love or care about. But when it comes to our own thought, we won't reframe it. So what would you tell a friend? So Dion, this is great. Dion says, I may have reached out at a bad time. And then Joe says, I might have to reach out and start the process. And then Rhonda says, this is an opportunity to complete another task, to do something different, to move from it. You can continue to add in here, but we'll move on to our next slide. So this is a lot too about how we talk to ourselves and the power of self-talk. I'm going to move my, okay. I'm a little bit disjointed with this this computer switch up. Okay, I just needed my clock right there because I want to be able to keep up with our time, and I'm usually really good at starting and ending on time. Okay, so the power of self-talk. Our inner dialogue influences how we feel and how we act. So if you're in a place of self-criticism or negative thinking, could we move to self-compassion? Maybe even this is an opportunity to have a little sticky somewhere, a little note on your refrigerator. Self-criticism or self-compassion, it's a choice. Example of saying, I failed. You can turn it into, I'm learning and growing. So there's things that we can do in regards to self-talk and how we talk to ourselves to change it a little bit. Kenneth here has something for you, John. Kenneth says, a friend of mine wasn't returning calls, and I found out he was in a behavioral health facility and didn't have his phone. I mean, that's a pretty real reason not to return a phone call, right? Sometimes there can be big things going on in your life, and it's hard, you don't want to return a phone call. A lot of times, it's not that they don't love you. We tell ourselves lies, right? We tell ourselves untrue things, and that's a cognitive distortion. And sometimes it's good to call ourselves out on that too. So we'll move over to the next slide. So remembering how we talk to ourselves, incredibly important. Daily affirmations for positivity are important. Do you guys, the people that were on here a couple of months ago, do you remember when we talked about positive affirmations? You can just say yes or no. But we talked about, Linda said yes, thank you, thank you. We talked about the power of positive affirmations because they can be things that we say to ourselves that can help us to feel better. It's a cognitive switch that can help us to reinforce how we're feeling. And this can reinforce a constructive mindset. So for example, if you are going to go take a walk, or if you are thinking about taking a walk, maybe giving yourself an affirmation, I am taking care of my body. I am strong. I love myself. It doesn't have to be about a walk either. I am trying my best, and that is enough. I think it can be incredibly powerful to have positive affirmations sort of around you. Maybe you keep them in a journal. Maybe you put one up on your bathroom mirror, that you keep words around that feel good to hear. And sometimes positive affirmations might be something that you would tell someone that you love that you wouldn't quite tell yourself, and you owe it to yourself. You can Google so many positive affirmations. I know that a couple months ago, I gave a list, and I made sure that I had it in the presentation because we had somebody that wanted to know examples. But you can Google positive affirmations and find one that fits for you and one that feels good. So an example again would be, I'm capable and I am strong. I choose to focus on what I can control. We have Barbara that says, I do my best every day, and my best is different every day. That is beautiful, Barbara. Thank you for sharing that. If you have any affirmations that you use, please, please, please share them. So we're going to move on to our next slide. So any positive affirmation examples that you think of, that you try to tell yourself? I tell myself, so Barbara technically started us off, but I'll continue, is to tell yourself, I can do hard things. I tell myself that a lot. So if there's something that I'm facing that is challenging, and it doesn't mean that I need to power through, it just means that I know I can handle hard things, and that it may take time, or it may just be a little bit different, but I can handle that. Dion says, I may have limitations, but I'm not limitless. That's beautiful. I also say it's okay to rest. Resting is recharge. And because I can feel guilty for wanting to take a nap sometimes. Linda says, a daily goal, I tell myself to be cool, calm, and collected. And so I am cool, I am calm, and I am collected. When Liz says, I'm kind and a good listener. It's beautiful, Liz. When I feel like a wave of anxiety sometimes coming on, I will say, this is anxiety, and I don't like it, but I can handle it. I also might tell myself, this comes in waves, it comes and it goes. Any more positive affirmations, please feel free to put them in here, because they can help you. Kanita says, on her wall, she says, stop worrying. You've got this. Focus on now. Do your best. Repeat. I remember many years ago, my son was visiting at me when he was he's like elementary school, and at my office. And I remember it was back when he did cute little things, and he wrote these little, like, almost affirmations. I still have them for this day, but like one was like, don't stress, everything's okay. I just thought it was super sweet, a little affirmation, and he didn't even know. Okay, we have David who says, good fall. Monique, he says, everything is temporary. Joe says, SOS. Can you tell me what that stands for? And then Rhonda says, worry less, smile more. One affirmation that my supervisor says at work often, I think is really nice, is, you've got this. You've got this. It just feels like a positive kind of like, you're good. You've got this. Shelley says, on a bad day, it might be too much to come up with any sort of positive affirmation or positive spin. And I think that's okay too. Absolutely. You don't have to. This is like one of those, like, yes, but on a positive day, or on a hard day, it's hard to come up with a positive sign, but we could change it to yes, and on a hard day, I have the opportunity to think of a positive affirmation, or I can go look at something. It's an option, but it is hard to do. And all these things are hard to do because they are changing the way that you might be looking at something. And Joe said SOS is stop, observe, and shift. So that sounds like a really cool coping tool. Shelley says, and tomorrow is another day. Megan says, it's not the struggle that defines me, but how I finish. These are beautiful, guys. Dion says, it's okay to not be okay. This will pass. So very true. So we're going to move on to our next slide, but you can still keep doing positive affirmations. I'll always read them. And we're going to talk a little bit about gratitude. You guys know that I love gratitude, and I love it because there is science behind it, that it really can help change our brain chemistry a little bit, how we look at things. It does not change clinical depression. It does not change, clinical anxiety, but it can help us with coping with it. Linda said, years ago, I used to look in the mirror and wink and say, I love you. Maybe, John, this is a suggestion, an idea is, for the that thought, no one's returning my calls, they don't love me. It's to look in the mirror and say, you're loved. Megan says, one day at a time cannot be overstated or overused enough. Absolutely. So, how do we shift our perspective with using gratitude? Gratitude really helps us to focus from problem to possibility. Kenita said, it can be hard to think of something positive in the moment while in a difficult interaction with someone. Absolutely. And one of the things I've been really wanting to tell you is I wanted you to know, we talk so much about resilience here, and it's a pivotal part of this world is building resilience, right? And I talked about how resilience is helpful and how it helps you to be better, to cope, etc. But the truth is when you're empowering these resiliency skills, often it's during a really hard time. And so I just wanted to give that to you, to know as a gift that Kevin, go ahead and share if you have it. He has a great positive for today. But the truth is that when you're practicing tools to help with resilience, some of them might have immediate feeling good, but a lot of times being resilient doesn't feel good because you're in the middle of working through something that's a challenge. Kevin worked out. That is a great positive today. That is awesome, awesome, awesome. So even in tough times, when we're looking for small positives, small things of gratitude, it can help reframe our experience. I normally share that during COVID, I started this gratitude journal, and I started writing down one one small thing that I'm grateful for each day. And I keep up with it for the most part now. I have a journal now, and I still do it. I'm not as religious about it as I was during COVID, but it really helped me to reprogram how I looked at things. And I started to look at small things as really great things instead of looking for all the big things. And I would say very much years later that practice in itself has rewrote how I look at a lot of things in life in my day-to-day. So we'll move on to the next slide. We're going to talk about quick daily gratitude exercises. So a couple of things that you can do. So one is the thing that I shared, which was keep a gratitude journal. Write down 3 things you're grateful for each day. I stick to one, and I do it most days. Or start a gratitude jar. I know that we definitely, and we have someone that has a really great concept beyond gratitude. We have someone who said glimpse, I I believe it's glimpse or glimmer. I'm trying to remember the word that she used a long time ago, and I believe she's on here. But where you think of like a glimmering, thinking of one thing that kind of glimmered in your day, one positive thing, one thing that you're grateful for. You could keep it in a jar, and you could save them. You could express gratitude to others by saying thank you, or I always think telling someone, so if you notice something nice about someone, just kind of sharing that kind of is helps to kind of rewire a little bit of positivity. But when you express gratitude and say thank you more often too, it helps to kind of reframe your brain. So David says he's had MS for 28 years, but 14, but it hasn't had me. Yeah, that's, we want MS to be a part of us, but not all of us. And we want it to be a piece of you, but not all of you. I think when life is like that, we're winning. Even though sometimes symptoms can be really loud. You may have pain, or you may have a symptom. I think my fatigue is actually kind of loud today. That you have a symptom that's really loud for you, and so you allow, that you have to acknowledge taking care of that, but then also not letting it be all of you, that it's just a piece of you. Terry says, gratitude, it builds character. Barbara said, I've started a gratitude journal, but did not continue. That's okay. Another turn or take on a gratitude journal, which I tend to do a lot of times, is I usually write it down, but I usually try to snap one picture with my phone that made me happy of the day. And it might be something really small, like this coffee actually is really good. But my picture earlier was of my dog, Charlie. And yesterday it was at a sunset at the baseball field. It's usually not big things, but instead of doing, and I had a client that one time that I worked with, and she did her gratitudes by pictures too. And she's the one who inspired me to think of doing that. Barbara says, I do try to provide a positive statement to people I see at work every day. And that's great. And Megan says, also when we are, I'm sorry, the text is, it's not you, Megan, it's small on my screen. Also, when we are feeling bad or forgotten, we can make a habit of offering love. Start by doing one small loving action a day. Send an email, make a call, smile at someone, donate to a charity, offer to help someone. Giving ourselves helps to comfort to feeling unseen and unloved. And this creates purpose and space to be loved and loved. I love that, Megan. And then Renee says, daily gratitude for me is an opportunity to start a brand new day. I strive to do better than I did the day before. Absolutely. And so gratitude can really help. David says, listen to a good song. It's a great thing to do. And Kenneth says, I try to focus on others instead of focusing on pain, fatigue, or stuff. So finding something else to look at. And it doesn't take away that your experience is there, right? But if you only focus on that pain or that fatigue or other things going on, the stressors, that's all you can see. And it's hard because symptoms can be loud, and sometimes it feels like that's all you can see. But when you focus on other things, that can help to kind of shift you a little bit. So we'll move on to our next slide. And we're going to talk a little bit about, so how do we shift perspective with gratitude? So gratitude helps us, like I said, focus on the problems to possibilities. And if we can look at when we're in a tough time, and we look for small positives that can reframe our experience. So small positives. So for example, I feel like it was like a month ago, my transmission went out on my car when I was driving on the highway. And if you know me well enough, I've been doing this program for 4 years, but driving and anxiety sometimes can creep up for me a little bit. So my transmission going bad was or going out was a hard thing. So I was on the side of the road. And it caused a little bit of anxiety, but as I reflected on the situation when it was done in the moment, it was a little bit harder. I thought about all the nice people that I had met, from the Department of Transportation person who kind of blocked my car a little bit while we waited for the tow truck, to my husband kind of at home figuring out my plan, to my father-in-law picking me up. The small little things that made a big difference. And look for, big wins in the small things too. Jennifer just shared that, and that's actually a really great sentiment. Looking for the big wins in the small things. So move on to the other side. I believe we have a chat box question here. Yes. Any gratitude shift examples? So you can feel free to type here if you have an example of, sort of like my car experience, where I had something, and it doesn't have to be a horrific thing, but something didn't go quite as well, and you were able to shift and look at some of the gratitude, the goodness in the situation. I know that's kind of probably long-winded because you might want to type something, but feel free to share if you've ever had an experience where something was kind of wrong and it just, you turned it into something that was, okay, or you found a silver lining. It doesn't excuse that whatever happened, or hard was hard. It doesn't take it away. Liz also says, get out into the beauty of nature. Absolutely. Nature is a amazing, amazing piece of medicine for us, in the sense of being able to reframe, lower anxiety, find things to be grateful for. You can see the sun, the clouds, the stars at night, the grass. You might see an animal. There's a lot of things that, when you get outside, that can kind of help. Shelley says, no energy to go out, but there's a great book waiting for me. That is a wonderful gratitude and a wonderful reframe. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're going to move on to our next slide, but just know that you can keep typing, and I'll hone in on what's being said. So what are some of the links between goals and mental health well-being? Is it important to have goals? Of course it is. Do we have to have big goals? No. In my work, that we have a thing called a stretch goal, and which is not my favorite kind of goal, because that's like an unrealistic goal, almost like a dream goal. Those are not my favorite goals. I like the realistic, kind of easy, small goals that are achievable. But when you have goals that you can work on, this can really build confidence, and it can reinforce your positive outlook. Think about it for a minute. Whenever you do something and you accomplish something, it's like a little dopamine check mark. And the dopamine check mark is really you get a little bit of infusion of dopamine, and it feels good to meet a goal. And goals can be really small. They can be, getting up, brushing my teeth, doing things. There is an app, and I cannot remember the name of this app, but I think it's, I wish it didn't cost money, or I would probably make a grand effort to get the name of it, but it does cost money. But there is an app where you take your self-care goals, like simple self-care goals, and when you meet those little goals, it's like you're feeding a little animal, or you're taking care of something on this little app. It's a really cute, and because what it does is you do this, and then you check off that you did it. It reinforces like some dopamine. You feel better, and it's a really helpful tool for people. I just wish they would make it free, because I don't know why they make so many apps, and they don't make them just for everybody to have access to them, especially when it's about mental health. Amelia says, my brother and sister-in-law's house burned down, which is terrible, but they've been overwhelmed by how caring people have been, even people they didn't know well. Absolutely, people show up, and sometimes you can, be. When you get to notice that, that can help you see that there's a beautiful thing, as people really care. Kevin, I'm glad you're back. Melissa says, playing with my 2-year-old grandson brings me joy and comfort. Goodness gracious, if you need any reframing, or lightness, play with a kid. They're the way they look at things, the way that they love, the way the world is, unless they're Tyler Greggy. No, they're a lot of joy, and I love kids for that reason. And then Kenneth says, if you can't go out in nature, put a bird feeder next to your window, invite them to visit you. That's a beautiful idea, Kenneth. I have bird feeders everywhere, but I also have lots of squirrels, but I guess I feed both. um, Tanikia says, mine would be when my transportation kept pushing my pickup time back and I was going to church. So I had to refocus my mind because I was getting frustrated, but I just canceled and watched the live stream and still was blessed. So you found a workaround for yourself that worked. And that was good because it got you out of that ick mood, right? And it was able to refocus you. Oh, Joe says my wife and son use that app. It's a really cool app. I just wish it was free. And if I could afford it, to pay for everyone on the chat to have it, I would, because I think it's a really cool system and how it works. I've downloaded it before just to kind of check it out and look at it. So we're gonna So goals provide a sense of purpose and motivation. And so it's important to have goals, like small goals. You can have big goals too, but definitely would like I think the small goals are important. I'm going to read this. It's from Megan. I'm still going to read this a little bit long, but it's not too long. She shares the book Man's Search for Meaning is an amazing book about how meaningful, which is making goals, is of the same work. And he quotes, "We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. There may have been few in number, but they'd offered sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, the one to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." That's beautiful. Thank you, Megan, for sharing. Linda also says the small wins add up to the big ones, right? Absolutely. I think when you're able to find all those small wins, to me, you're winning, because they all add up to be big, and you look at life a little bit differently, and you look at things differently. You look for those things. You look for things, and that doesn't mean that the bad things don't still happen, or it's not hard, or you don't have a heavy symptom day, or those things are still there, but those other things help. So absolutely, Linda. We'll move to the next slide. What is a small win from today? And I'll explain this a little bit more, but what is a small win for you for today? And I'll think of one real quick for myself. Renee says she puts her a nature screensaver on her TV and computer, and it helps her to stay calm during the day, and she loves the beauty. That's amazing to share. Thank you so much, Renee. So what is a small win for you today? Think about it. Something small that went, it didn't go perfectly or was good. Let me think. So you have to think about these things. Shelly says hers was emptying the dishwasher. That's a really good small win. Kanita said she walked around the block. That is an amazing win. Monique says I was able to go on a 40-minute hike. That is pretty cool. Terry went to the gym. John, discovering that frozen veggies taste better in the air fryer. Ooh, you'll have to tell us what kind of veggie tasted better in the air fryer. That's actually cool to know. Linda said I went to my singing class. Sherry said I joined a writing group and finished my first assignment. I'll share a win. So I've signed up for to have connection with some pen pals, like global pen pals. And some of these are written pen pals, and some of these are internet pen pals that I've been wanting to. One of my words this year to focus on was building community, and I wanted to build a little bit of community for myself and connection. And that's been a win, is being able to find some people to communicate with. And it's been kind of fun. Rhonda says, I was able to have my breakfast before my exercise class. Absolutely. Oh, and another win is I don't have to make dinner tonight because my son has practice and my husband's taking care of it. And that's always like the thing that seems to drain me the most. Um, so we'll continue on with our next slide, but I want you to think about everyone here, everyone on this call has small wins, small things that they can take with them. So how do we overcome obstacles to achieve our goals? Because things get in the way, right? Life gets in the way, symptoms get in the way. And how can we overcome those obstacles? So one of the things is to identify barriers and create a plan to work through them. So I was at my doctor's office today, at my neurology office specialist, and we were talking about exercise. And back in the day, I was exercising all the time. And as of late, it's been a little bit harder for me for multiple reasons. And so we were talking about exercise. And I said, it is a goal for me to kind of start going, starting to exercise again. I used to have walking buddies and different things built in that made it a little bit easier. I had a goal of doing an MS challenge walk, that sort of thing. And we started talking about boundaries, and then he started talking about his exercise boundaries that or barriers, not boundaries, barriers that get in the way. And he said, I've learned that I'm not very motivated to go unless I have at least once a week I work with a personal trainer, and then I tend to be more motivated for my exercise for the rest of the week. And so it was just a real conversation about barriers. And so when you're thinking about you want a goal, we have to think about what are the potential barriers, and we can create a plan to work around them. So, for example, if going to the gym is important to me, and I want to make that a goal, then it may be that I find a class to attend. Because if I go to a class, I'm more than likely to show up because I'll know people, I'll meet people. But if I'm just on my own, going to aimlessly go to the gym, I might not, probably won't want to go. So, and another example would be is if forgetting a journal is an issue, set a reminder or attach it to an existing habit, like put it beside your coffee. Even thinking about, like medication compliance, how do you take your medicines? And, if your goal is to comply with them, what have you done to kind of like keep where you are able to take them given the barriers that can happen? I'm going to read a little bit. Melissa said, I discovered a very calming music channel on Amazon Music. The Zen music is immediately calming. Thank you. So Zen music on Amazon Music. Kenneth says, plan a way to accomplish what you want in the way you can. Yeah, being realistic. Kanita says, decide that working on cleaning my room is more important than watching one more YouTube video. Oh, also, I've found that if I listen to a podcast while I'm doing something, I'll probably do something productive, like I can put away clothes or laundry or something, whereas without it, I'm not as motivated. Jennifer says perseverance is key. All right, so hold on one second. So let's move on to our next slide. You guys have been so great. Like I've loved tonight's participation. You're my small win tonight. Okay. So creating your personal positivity plan. It's important to think about what are things that I can do to incorporate or infuse a little bit more positivity in my life. So it could be a negative. So what you might want to do is think about a negative thought you would like to, reframe. This could be a gratitude practice that you want to commit to, or a small goal to focus on, which I think for mine is going to be exercise. Actually, it's kind of a big goal, but maybe a small goal is to figure out what type of exercise I want to do. Thinking about something small that you can do. that would help improve the positivity. And this doesn't mean that you're not positive already. It just means that, what is something that you can do to help. Kenneth says, use reminders and alarms on phone for meds or appointments. That's a great idea. Shelley says, I do not set undoable, unrealistic goals for myself. The small wins are okay. Yeah, I think that's very helpful that we set goals that are realistic, that are not so big, so grandiose that they're not achievable. There's a thing called a SMART goal, and I've talked about it in past workshops, but making sure that goals are, they're smart, they're, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Okay, so we'll move on to our next slide. What is something that you could benefit or that would benefit you? I've got to move this so I can read it. Hold on, I'm so sorry. What is something that, and I lost my presentation, hold on. Okay, what is something that would benefit you being a part of your positivity plan? Whew, okay. So what is something that would benefit you for being a part of your positivity plan? And I think for me, with that said, I think I could greatly benefit from having a goal set for exercise for me. So, but the goal is exercise, but the positivity plan is the actual goal that I need to set. Okay, for some reason, my presentation went away for me. So hold on, hang tight real quick. Oh my goodness. Okay. So continue writing, and then I'm hopefully going to be able to see the chat box. I have no idea. I've had a little bit of trickiness here. Let me see if okay. So Jennifer says, it's not that you haven't succeeded. There's always room for improvement. Margie says, the going is good. Give energy and peace. Renee says, I would love it if I can organize my day in a way that helps me to get to bed on time. Kenneth says, put little rewards into the plan. And Terry says, go to social events. We're going to move on to the next slide, but I can't see it, and that's okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about building a support system or creating a personal positivity plan, encouraging you to do that. And then we're going to talk about building a support system for positivity. And I'm so sorry that I cannot see the PowerPoint anymore. So we're going to recap kind of some of these strategies, so how we can have daily practices for a positive mindset. So some of the things that we can do is challenge negative thoughts. Other things we can do is practice gratitude daily. We can set small, meaningful goals, and we can use positive affirmations. We'll move on to the next slide, and we'll just talk about the ripple effect of positivity. And if the slide doesn't say that, I'm sorry. But it's essentially a positive mindset is not only you, but also those around you. So there's a ripple effect to being positive. You can always still participate in the chat box. I just literally can't see the PowerPoint, so you can continue to participate. So Joe says, if you keep trying, you can't fail. And Margie says, healthywavemat.com. This mat gives me energy, less fatigue, and a better mood. That is very cool. Healthy Wave Mat. So there's a ripple effect to positivity. And when you spread positivity, it creates a healthier environment for everyone. So it helps people, not only you. And to know that positivity is a journey, and it's not an overnight change. And to be patient with yourself and celebrate progress, not perfection. So I'm going to ask you, what is something that you take away from tonight's program? What is something that you would like to apply? Sherry says, I watch funny animal videos when I'm feeling down. Absolutely. That's a great thing to do. Laughing is so good for you. Kanita says, daily practices as a positive mindset. Thank you. Oh, maybe that's what you have as a slide. So I would like, I just completely cannot see the slideshow, which is a little bit crazy to me. And I don't want to focus on seeing it, because if I focus on seeing it, then I can't see you, and we've only got a couple of minutes left. But so what we'll do is I want you to think about what is something that we talked about today that is helpful to you, and that you would like to encourage yourself to think about doing, or that you might want to revisit that gratitude journal, or you might want to learn more about cognitive reframing. We have it's on the working on a positivity plan, everyone's saying. Kanita says, I like to watch stand-up comedy. John said to get a bird feeder by the window. That would be great. Sherry said affirmations. Amelia said, I want to get back to the routine of daily gratitude journal. So there's a lot of different things that we can do here. And before we move on, I wanted to share a quote that I saw that was pretty cool. What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create. And that is from Buddha. Oh, Megan says, I say these to my kids, but I'm reminded tonight that I need to live this too. You miss 100% of the chances you don't take. And be yourself. Everyone else is taken. That's beautiful. Margie says, mobilitytowel.com by Kay helps me dry faster with less fatigue. Margie, thank you for sharing that. If you deal with fatigue and drying, a mobility towel might help. And then Barbara says, I want to start my gratitude journal again. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Shelley. So we're going to move on to the next slide. Please stay on to the program still. I don't want to lose you. I want to thank Viatris for their sponsorship of tonight's program. And I always say this, it's not goodbye, it's I'll see you next time. We're quite a community here, and I'm so thankful for every single one of you for being here tonight, because you help each other. I'll see you next month.